This is Actualize Freedom, straight talk on growing clicks and conversions on Amazon FBA from people doing it every day. Now here's your host, digital marketing acrobat, Danny Kenji Carlson.
What's up, guys? Danny Carlson here with the Actualize Freedom podcast, and today we have Lesley Hensell from Riverbend Consulting, and she's an expert when it comes to not getting suspended on Amazon, or if you are suspended, how to get unsuspended so you can actually get selling your Amazon products again. And she's also an expert in Amazon customer service, how to keep your account in really good health so that you probably don't get suspended in the first place. So she has some really unique insights into not only how to keep your Amazon account unsuspended, but how to get through the mental hurdles that Amazon sellers unfortunately have to deal with when it comes to this kind of taboo topic that no one really wants to talk about. So welcome to the podcast, Lesley. I think a really good place to start would be the mindset of getting through an Amazon suspension. This is obviously something that is really, really difficult to deal with mentally. How have you seen some of your clients or some of the people you've worked with deal this and get through these really challenging situations mentally?
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you're starting with this, because when people hear a podcast or a discussion about being suspended on Amazon, a lot of them just tune out immediately because the panic sets in. They have that fear response that if I get suspended from Amazon, my life is over. What am I going to do? I have clients who have had to lay off family members, who have had to lay off a workforce of 25 people, who have had a house about ready to go into foreclosure when they call me and say, please help me get my Amazon account back. I don't know what I'm going to do. So one thing to be particularly mindful of now, while you've got a healthy, active account, is that there are multiple ways to operate on Amazon. And Amazon should not be your only stream of income. And I don't care if you're one guy working out of your basement, or if you're an e-commerce company that has 25 employees and you're focused mainly on selling your private label offerings on Amazon. If you want to really be safe for the long term, you have to have the resilient mindset that you are going to have multiple streams of income. And when you develop those multiple streams of income, it's going to give you that crutch. You're always going to have some kind of cash flow coming through, even if you get suspended. Now, I've got some clients that have done some amazing things. They were suspended from Amazon. It was the only thing that they relied on for their business. And then when they finally got reinstated, they said, I'm never going to be in this position again. So, give you an example. If you're only selling wholesale products and products you get from a distributor, it's time to start thinking about private label. You can ask permission from Amazon to have a separate account to develop your own brand. You don't put it in your existing account, because then they both go down, your private label offerings and the things that you're buying from a distributor. You have two separate accounts. You get permission, you develop a brand name, and all of a sudden you've got two businesses on Amazon instead of one. You reduce your risk. We are all about reducing risk and feeling better day to day about your position. If you're already doing that, then let's think about other channels. There's Shopify, there's Walmart, there's Newegg. There are all of these other great places that you can be selling. Are you going to have as much volume as you do on Amazon? No, you're not. It's just not going to happen. However, it's going to give you that peace of mind knowing you're going to get through the next day, the next week, the next month, be able to move your product and create some cash flow if anything ever does happen on Amazon. And here's my favorite thing to remember with Amazon. Like right now, people are really upset and frustrated because Amazon is enforcing on things like on platform manipulation and product review manipulation. And they say, I've got private label products. How am I going to move these if I can't do these promotions like I did in the past? If you're willing to have a stick to it mindset and look for the new ways you can do things, you're going to outmaneuver the competition. That's how people have gotten rich on Amazon for years. It's all about looking for the way that you can do it within the rules that other people aren't willing to do, and doing the hard work other people are not willing to do. There is so much money to be made on the platform. It's just a matter of remembering that once you find that way, your way that isn't everyone else's way, you're going to be making money.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there, because in my opinion, to be honest, is not really a real resilient business unless it has some kind of income source that is not only Amazon. Because like you said, if it is your Amazon account gets suspended, you maybe are stuck with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of inventory that you can no longer sell. That's no longer really a business. You just have inventory sitting there, right? I was actually writing a blog post yesterday about building a ManyChat audience and talking a little bit about email lists. And then if you have the email list or the ManyChat audience that you can then redirect to other places, it's a little bit more resilient, right? But you really said something I want to touch on, which is having the multiple accounts there. That's a really common question, and I know people have is, let's say they got the permission to have the secondary Amazon account, and worst case scenario, one of them gets suspended. Have you seen situations where only one of the two accounts would get suspended, and have you seen situations where they both get suspended at the same time? What has your experience been with that?
Both of those scenarios can happen, and it really is supposed to be dependent on the reason for the suspension. So if you have two approved accounts that you're allowed to have, and you've done what you're supposed to, which is you keep the inventory segregated, you're not selling the same thing on both accounts. Because if you do that when they told you not to, they will suspend them and call them related accounts, even if you had approval. But let's say you're suspended, one of them is suspended for platform manipulation, it's suspended for ASIN variation problems, used sold as new issues, product safety. Those suspensions aren't going to take the other account down the vast majority of the time. The time when you are at risk, although it's not a guarantee, but you're at risk of losing the second account, is if you're suspended for counterfeit or code of conduct. Because with those, you're automatically considered an extremely high risk seller. And that's when they're going to say, okay, we don't want any more of you, because what you did was so high risk that we don't want either of your accounts on the platform. But probably 80% of the time, if one of them is suspended, the other one's going to be okay, as long as you've been segregated. And the other thing that can protect you is if you completely stay out of crossing categories. So if you've got one account that is in clothing and shoes, and then one account that's in health and beauty, and never the twain shall mix, you never put the two together, you are much, much safer.
Yeah, because that's one of the terms of having a secondary account, right? You're not really supposed to have like two different brands that are like selling the same products or anything like that. Like that's not technically okay, right?
Right. I've got a guy right now who has 3 accounts that he got Amazon's approval, and for some reason he thought he could sell all of the same ASINs on all 3 accounts. And guess what happened? Once one of them went down for listing violations, they all went down. So really, all they ask of you is that you have separate banking information, and that you have completely separate inventory, and that you don't operate the businesses together in any way. And really, it's a pretty low bar of requirement.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we recently had Casey Goss on the podcast talking about the recent slew of suspensions for, basically, as far as people can tell, just manipulation of Amazon BSR, of the promotions and everything like that. What have you been seeing when it comes to those kind of suspensions?
We've been seeing a lot of them, and actually there's a new language that we have not seen before that's all around search and browse. That they had added some language into the help about search and browse. What we're seeing most right now are 2 kinds of suspensions around platform manipulation. One of those is for platform manipulation that is around promotions. So when you are using an external website of some sort where you're paying them a fee and they provide a link to go to your product, and the buyer's getting a coupon code of some sort to buy the product, that is manipulating search rank because it's not organic. The clients that I'm seeing that happen, when we break it down by each ASIN, let's say that they that they gave away 50 coupon codes over a month and they only had 75 sales for that ASIN in that month. Amazon is looking and seeing 2/3 of the sales came from these coupon codes. That they're considering manipulation, and they're taking them down. The other thing that is, to me, much more flagrant of a foul, if you will, that I think it's going to make it harder and harder for people to get reinstated over time, are these back-end rebates. Some people are doing them with a company that they're giving out rebates, and some are doing it off platform through PayPal using virtual assistants to actually give these PayPal refunds. Either one of those is against terms of service. Amazon has figured out how to track them down, and they're taking those accounts out.
Okay, that's an interesting one because I've heard a few different opinions on the rebates. So you're someone who takes a look at the terms of service, and it really is your job to really interpret this. And you're seeing many accounts be suspended or reinstated for various things, and so you have more experience than most people when it comes to this. So let's dive into the language specifically on the rebates there. What have you seen maybe the language being used by seller support reps you've been talking to, or additions to the terms of service and things like that when it comes to rebates?
And the BSR very specifically says that you cannot give rebates, and especially not off platform, but I don't think they really care either way. They added this language very recently, and it calls it out directly and says you cannot give rebates. Also, you're not supposed to give any kind of an inducement at all. And here's an addition in the language that I just found last week that I thought was fascinating, and it gives Amazon so much extra rope to hang you they didn't have before, because they actually say something now about what was it exactly? It was implied or inferred. So they're saying if you use any kind of these third-party platforms or websites or social media, and people use them to buy your product, and it is implied that you expect a review in return, that's a violation of terms of service. So this is kind of craziness to me, but at the same time, I get where they're coming from, because some of these services out there have really been hanging their hat on being able to tell people we're not violating terms of service because we never asked for a review, right? So we're just giving out coupon codes, we're giving a link to your offer, we never asked for a review, so you're not going to get in trouble. Well, now Amazon added this language that says if you use one of these third-party solutions and it is implied that they should get a review in return for getting this free or heavily discounted product, that can be in violation of terms of service.
Yeah, and I know there's lots of people out there who are doing some kind of sneaky, let's call them gray hat techniques when it comes to reviews, right? They're getting around the language by doing stuff like, hey, we're going to give you this free product. And then after, they're sending a message, oh, hey, would you mind reviewing the product, right? And so basically with the new rules, that could be implied review manipulation, because they're basically just warming them up with something free and then asking for a review immediately after, right?
Right, and actually that's been the case for a while, but they clarified it even more in the language by adding the word inducement. That's a word that we've been using internally at Riverbend for some time. One of our employees on staff was at Seller Performance for 10 years, and she wrote a lot of the original rules a long time ago. And a lot of the wording that she used was around giving inducements. And so now we've seen that pop up in the BSR about inducements, which is anything that makes people feel like they should give you a more positive review or positive feedback. It's just getting extremely dangerous. And the problem to me is that Amazon is creating a very difficult situation. The whole point of Amazon is to be able to compete with the big guys, right? Isn't that supposed to be the point? That's actually what they said 2 years ago. You might remember they did that massive brand gating where they took everyone off of Nike and all these other brands and Adidas, and everyone was saying, what do you want from us, Amazon? And what they said was, we want people to build all these private label products that are exclusive to Amazon, third-party sellers. It'll be great. And now all of a sudden they're kind of taking away the tools that the third-party sellers have been using to launch their private label brands and compete against the big brands that are out there, the big national brands. So the people who want to really compete on Amazon now with private label are going to have to step up their game, because over time they're going to figure out and track down all of these fake reviews and anyone who's doing rebates off platform. It frankly shocks me, some of the things that they find. They have found, I had one client who was using this Facebook tool. It was one of those follow me ads where if you bought the product or typed it into your browser, then it'll pop up on Facebook in your feed. And the ad was saying, if you love our brand, click here to give us a review. If you had a problem, click here. And if you had a problem and clicked here, it would take you to a chat with a rep that they had at their company, right? Well, that's not allowed. That's cherry picking. You're not asking everyone for a review. You're only asking happy people for reviews. Amazon found that on Facebook and suspended this company that was doing 20 million a year selling supplements on Amazon.
Yeah, and so there's your answer right there. I know a lot of people listening right now are using that exact tactic when I have not thought this is a good idea all along, because Amazon has for a long time been suspending people for doing that exact tactic within its own email system where they can clearly see it. But for some reason, people thought it was different on something like their email list or on Facebook Messenger and stuff. And, sure, maybe there's a much lower chance that any Amazon rep or someone is going to see that. But all it takes is one competitor to take a screenshot and go just be like, hey, look, what is this? Or if they're doing an account review on you, it's like you can be sure that they're onto these kind of tactics now and they're going to be looking for this kind of stuff, right? So it's no different wherever you're going to be doing it, right? So just to be clear for people listening, the thing that is not okay with that is routing the people who are happy to leave a review and the people who are unhappy to your customer service or to somewhere else.
Absolutely. And you brought up such a good point, because there's a third way. I love what you said about right there in the messaging system, because yes, they will catch that. So they went other places. And I'm sure if you buy on everything on Amazon like I do, then you've started to see these inserts in some of the products where it does the same thing. It asks you to give reviews or it offers a rebate or a gift card or something else. Don't think that your competitors aren't going to buy your stuff to see if you've got those inserts, because they are. And then they take a picture of it and they do report a violation. And here's why it's so dangerous, because unlike other types of suspensions, right now, this is the only type of suspension that I know of that has a 2 strikes and you're out rule. Platform manipulation is 2 strikes and you're out. I do not care how big you are. I don't care if you have an account manager. I don't care if you're doing 40 million a year or if you are, Amazon's choice on every single product. You get caught for platform manipulation twice, you're done.
This podcast is brought to you by Kenji ROI, a complete done-for-you service for your Amazon listing creation and optimization. Everything from product photography, including lifestyle images with a real model, graphic design images and studio images, to the copywriting and keyword optimization, to videos and enhanced brand content if you're lucky enough to have brand registry. We also manage marketing when it comes to Amazon ads. And also, for some bigger sellers out there who might be interested in building a messenger list, we offer services creating the ManyChat funnels to follow up with customers for more reviews, to help build your own audience that you can launch new products to, help rank for new keywords, and there is Facebook ads management built into that as well for the right sellers. So if you want to learn more about Kenji ROI, head to KenjiROI.com. That is actually my middle name, Kenji, with the ROI added onto the end. Yeah, and this is a super scary thing because a lot of businesses really rely on external traffic sources and stuff like that. So, I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that Amazon would not be okay with you sending external traffic from various sources, right? So what are the particular things that Amazon is not okay with when it comes to, what do they see as manipulation versus just, hey, I have like an email list full of my customers and I'm going to send them to sales on Amazon?
Right. So much of it really is all about inducement. They are looking for anything that they perceive as being you're offering something in return for a review, or if you're giving tremendous discounts so that your sales wouldn't be deemed organic anymore. So, URLs are generally okay as long as you're not using super URLs. Super URLs are where you've manipulated a URL so that now it actually has search terms in it. So it looks like if you plugged in Amazon search terms, it would come back with your product, and it kind of tricks the Amazon interface over time. And there's software to do that. You don't want to do those. But if you're sending a direct URL to your offer, that's still kosher. If you're sending out newsletters with your products and offering those products, that's still fine. Doing coupons within the Amazon interface and a limited number of coupons, also totally cool. They want to have coupon offers and they want to have sales inside the Amazon platform. The problem is when you're getting up to where it's too much of your sales, it's making up too high of a percentage where it doesn't look right anymore. So I've got a client right now who does TV advertising. He's doing a whole lot of TV advertising. He's sending a lot of traffic directly to his link for his listing, and we're all good. But because he's not using super URLs and he's not offering anything, it is flat out advertising.
And so you mentioned super URLs, and this is something that's been controversial for many years. And it is people arguing very, very aggressively on both sides of this argument. Are super URLs okay? We had Casey Goss, the most recent podcast episode we do, come on there as he invented the current storefront URL and still currently thinks it's okay to use. What is your interpretation of the super URL here today in 2019?
I know that none of my opinions are popular and everything I talk about is controversial. Isn't that crazy? But
I mean, your job is a particularly difficult job, interpreting Amazon's cryptic, crazy actions and terms of service.
Yes, and I tell everyone the things they don't want to hear. And not everyone agrees with me, and that's okay. It's all about risk and what your level of risk is. I will tell you straight up, I have seen very few suspensions for super URLs. And I've worked on thousands of Amazon accounts in various capacities. So, I can tell you I've seen hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds for inauthentic. But I've seen one or two for super URLs. So is it something they're enforcing right now? Not that I'm aware of. However, I will tell you this. Just since, I think it was May 2nd, we've started seeing this new language and suspension notices for platform manipulation that are about search and browse. And if you search the BSR or the help for search and browse, they have new language there. That new language there, to me, opens up the door and says that they might be willing to go down the road of going after super URLs in the future. But right now, I consider it low risk just because they haven't enforced it, not because it's not against the rules.
Yeah, so it's something that you have seen some suspensions for, that it's really not being enforced. And like you said, the language is still a little bit up for interpretation when it comes to search and browse. So like maybe you can give a little bit of context here for people who haven't read those parts of the terms. How is Amazon defining search and browse? I know a lot of people are probably using search, find, buy techniques when it comes to product ranking and everything like that. So maybe you can explain that a little bit for us.
Absolutely. And I'm actually going to pull up some of the language here. I bookmarked these the other day because it's new stuff and still a little bit difficult to remember all of the language. So this new section says misuse of search and browse. It says any attempt to manipulate the search and browse experience is prohibited. This includes artificially simulating customer traffic through internet bots, paying for clicks on organic search results, etc., providing misleading or irrelevant category information, and adding product identifiers, even if they are your own, to hidden keyword attributes. So the search and browse related to super URLs would be considered artificially simulating customer traffic. And the reason is because when you create a super URL, you're adding in the organic keywords that you believe people are searching for to the URL itself. You're essentially creating a URL that has those keywords in it that is not in existence on its own in the Amazon platform. So when people are directed toward Amazon that way over and over again, it kind of tricks the Amazon platform into believing that your product is being returned as an organic search result for those words. But again, I can only think, since we brought it up, I've been trying to think of the suspensions that I've seen for this. I think I've seen one, and it was someone who was also paying for clicks.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And so when it comes to like search, find, buy, and for those who are not familiar, it's like getting a customer to search for a specific keyword, find your product on the page, and then purchase it. So technically Amazon can't really tell if it is a organic customer just searching on Amazon for your product and buying it, or it like a super URL. They would be able to figure that out, right? So, in your opinion, is there really any way that Amazon can track someone using a search, find, buy if they get customers to perform that technique for them?
Yes, unfortunately, I have seen suspensions where they have found that. You have to remember what Amazon's computing power looks like. So Amazon's only profitable business unit at this point in time is AWS and all of their server farms. And those server farms are used by the United States government for things like tracking metadata for phone calls that terrorists make. So the programmers in these server farms know what they are doing. I have seen linkages you would absolutely not believe. Unfortunately, there are also false positives, like accounts that aren't really related being related. But I've seen linkages where family members bought products and did reviews, even though they were all over the United States and had different last names. Amazon figured it out, linked them, and suspended the account for friend and family reviews. Friend and family reviews where people live nearby you and there's too many of them. Another example is sometimes when you use one of these services, or let's say that you're paying a set of people, when they buy a set of products doing this. So let's say you pay a service and the service has people who are doing this for you. And then there are 5 other sellers who are using the same service. And then that service has 100 buyer accounts that they use for these purposes. Amazon will notice that those 100 accounts buy the same 5 products from the same 5 sellers. And that's how they put it together.
Yeah, they certainly have a massive amount of data, so I wouldn't underestimate what they have access to, right? And one thing interesting that someone brought up, like people copy and pasting reviews. Like I know people do. People are always going to get friends and family to leave reviews, even though it's completely not allowed. Just so many people do it, right? But can Amazon track if a review is copy and pasted into their browser? Do you think that that's a trackable thing?
So I think over time they do notice language patterns. I've seen a few people who were suspended because of language patterns. I have also seen horrendous cases of black hat tactics where they should have found language patterns and didn't. Keep in mind with all of these things, they are all enforceable. It doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. It's deciding your risk tolerance and what you are willing to do or not do with your particular account. I have clients who've been suspended because there was a bad actor who clearly put fake reviews on their products, and the language patterns were obvious without using a computer, just reading through the things. And we presented the data to Amazon to show them that language pattern, and we had to do all the work to get them just to make those guys go away and to suspend that account so that our seller would be okay. So, they definitely can spot language patterns over time. The question is when they do and when they don't. It's so unreliable. And I think that's part of what's so confusing to the Amazon community, because I tell people about these rules and they'll say, well, I know 10 guys who are doing this and they all say it's okay. And I'm sure you do. You probably know hundreds of guys who use these techniques and haven't been caught and may never be caught. But it is a risk and it does happen every day.
Yeah, and so when it comes to risk, what would you say are the top 3 reasons why Amazon sellers are getting suspended today? Outside of let's assume that they're not doing review manipulation or trademark infringement or counterfeit or any of the really bad ones, but maybe ones that are just a lot more common that they just didn't see coming.
So the biggest problem I see right now is sellers who do not have decent invoices. They get a request from Amazon because someone said their product was fake. It wasn't fake, but someone complained that the product was fake or damaged. And so Amazon asks for invoices, and they do one of 2 things. They either send in lousy invoices or they have no invoices at all. Oh, or 3 things. A third thing is they doctor their invoice and send it in because it's more than 365 days old, or it didn't have enough units, or they couldn't find the original invoice, so they doubled the number of product on this invoice. That's really the most common suspension still right now. is people who get suspended for inauthentic. Sometimes it's elevated to counterfeit, even if it's not. Most of the time, it's not really counterfeit, even if Amazon says so. It does happen, but most of the time, it's not. And the invoices are what keep them from getting reinstated, or makes it very difficult and a long, painful process. I have to throw in: do not ever, ever, ever manipulate any invoice you send to Amazon. We have people recently who were sending in manipulated invoices to get ungated, and Amazon caught them and suspended the whole account. So too dangerous to go there. The second thing right now that's very common is IP violations. This is an Amazon generated emergency, if you will. Amazon launched Project Zero. At the same time, they have changed their standards for intellectual property, what standards they will accept, what information they will accept from a seller to get reinstated for intellectual property, and then furthered all of this by allowing all of the overseas sellers on the platform continually with no safeguards. And as a result, you have this huge mishmash mess of intellectual property complaints for everything from counterfeit to trademark. Anything you can think of, people will complain about it. Some of it is legitimately the brand owners who have brand registry. Some of it is people who are faking email addresses and getting you suspended. Or my favorite, people who set up fake brands and sell products that have a brand, but they make up their own brand and sell products under their own brand and then get people thrown off the listings. So that's a cool one.
There are some fancy business models out there today, that's for sure.
There really are. And then the third reason people are getting suspended this month, at least, is listing violations. Most of them, it is because they are manipulating parent-child variations or creating like multi-packs and other kinds of bundles that aren't allowed. You know, I know it's really hard out there, and if you see there's already, excuse me, 10 listings for one ASIN, and you're trying to get someone to buy your ASIN, and so you change it up a little and maybe add something to it and try and get your Nike shoe bought instead of someone else's Nike shoe. I get the temptation, but it's really causing a lot of problems in the catalog. Amazon wants to clean up the catalog, so they're doing a lot of suspensions around that.
And so to be clear on that, is that mostly with products that have a lot of sellers on them or are other brands, or are you seeing that with people's own private label products as well, where they're the only seller on the listing? Maybe they made a variation type that Amazon does not allow?
So with the people who are on other brands, a lot of times it can be a flat out mistake that you didn't see that there was a listing available, or someone else does some weird merges. They ask seller support to merge things. Seller support will merge anything, even when they're not supposed to. Big news for anyone out there who trusts seller support. Seller support will make changes to listings that you ask them to make that will get you suspended. Do not trust that they know the rules. They don't. So seller support will create variations they're not supposed to, and you think because you ran it by them, you're okay. You're not. So yes, there are suspensions for people on other people's listings. Then there are the ugly, ugly suspensions for private label sellers where they're doing shady stuff, like taking old inactive ASINs and having those ASINs transformed into their new ASIN for their new product. That is how sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen this, where you want to buy some headphones and you look at the reviews, and the reviews are all for ballpoint pens, and you're wondering why there are all these reviews about ballpoint pens on the headphones. It's because someone looked at the history and saw that nothing on that ASIN is sold for 5 years. So they decide to make it their own. And they find some gullible person in seller support who will make all the changes to that ASIN, and suddenly it's theirs with all the 5-star reviews. Amazon's starting to catch on to those and suspending those.
That is a really good tricky one. Everyone's certainly seen those completely ridiculous reviews that make no contextual sense whatsoever. So just to review that, can you just give a quick recap of those 3 ones that people should watch out for, just in like 10 seconds or less?
Absolutely. Inauthentic suspensions, make sure that you have good invoices to Amazon standards. Number two is IP violations. You need to know where you're getting your inventory and if it's allowed to be sold on Amazon, because people are going to come after you if it's not. Number three is listing violations. Do not play games with the catalog because they are cleaning it up right now.
Awesome. And lastly, I really want to touch on Amazon customer service, because I know this is something that you're super knowledgeable about, and it's also a big reason why people can blow up their business, right? Businesses with bad customer service explode. So what are some ways that Amazon sellers can have their business not explode and keep their customers happy and not leaving one-star reviews all over their listings?
So one very important thing is communication. A lot of people really don't understand how important it is to have excellent customer service messaging, because there's always going to be crazy people out there who do nutty stuff and ask for a return before they even receive the item. All these things they're going to happen. You cannot control that, but you have to control the 80% of what you can control. And a big part of that is the messaging with the customer. Don't have your customer service team flying by the seat of their pants. It is so much more effective and also efficient and will save you money up front if you create customer service templates that can answer most of the questions that you're getting on a daily basis. And then when you get a question that doesn't fall into your templates, create another template. You can even load those templates right into Seller Central, so that someone who's answering messages for you, they just choose from a drop down and it will have that template, and you can plug in whatever relevant data there might be that isn't in the template, like a tracking number or a date or whatever the case may be. Also the great thing about templates, you write them when you're happy. You don't write them when you're annoyed with a customer. So you write it when you're happy so that you have that positive feeling in there, the positive language that you want to solve their problem. Just doing that can go a long way, instead of sending a message back to them that sounds like, what do you want? Get off my lawn. Why are you here? Go away. And let's face it, we've all gotten messages from other sellers on Amazon that sound like, get off my lawn, and you just don't want to go there. It's so important to avoid A to Z claims and negative feedback. Amazon just in the last few weeks has made it so much more difficult to get negative feedback taken off. And I actually believe they're going to completely take their team off of it. If it is not taken off by the automated process, I don't think they're going to take it off at all, because they don't want to spend the manpower on it, which I think is wrong, immoral, and unethical, and maybe even fattening for some people, because you're going to stress eat when you see all of it. But it doesn't matter. They're not going to do it. So the best defense you have is great customer service. And then another huge area for improvement, if you're doing merchant fulfilled, you've got to have good pick and pack, especially in categories like health and beauty and in technology. A lot of times you throw a warehouse worker out there and they don't realize there's 10 variations of a product, or there's 5 colors of a lipstick, or there's 10 different iPhone cases. You have to make sure they have the tools needed to do their job so they can pick the right order and send it. Upgrade your packaging so stuff isn't arriving smush. And perhaps my best example is, so I sell in health and beauty, and I send almost everything FBA, but I do some merchant fulfilled and seller fulfilled prime too. I know other sellers who sell the exact same stuff that I do. My complaint level is much lower than theirs because I shrink wrap every single dang piece of inventory that goes out of my warehouse. Every piece is shrink wrapped. So think about what you can do to go above and beyond that doesn't cost too much, but it keeps your complaints down. And remember what a bath you are taking on any returns that you're getting from Amazon.
Some really good golden nuggets in there. And I love the tip about just being in a happy place when you are responding to your customers, because even in something like an email, that tone comes through, right? Like you can read like the angry kind of tone to even an email. So you think maybe it's a good idea to grab a glass of wine and, late at night, do your customer emails with a little glass of wine, a beer, whatever is your favorite happy, relaxing drink?
Well, and once you grow your business to a certain point, that's why you outsource it too. Whether you hire a service like my company, or you hire a VA, or you hire your kid or your neighbor to answer your customer service messages, they aren't married to it like you are. They're not going to get mad like you are with returns or people with ridiculous feedback or requests. And so they can give those positive, happy messages back. Whereas if you've got a product that's like your baby and people are, making fake complaints and saying annoying things, it's going to be obvious that you're not happy. I love your idea though with the glass of wine. I think I would have to have a bourbon and answer my customer service messages.
It would definitely make it more exciting anyways. But I mean, if you're going to be hiring your kid, maybe you shouldn't be giving them the bourbon or the glass of wine, but your employees would probably appreciate it. So that one would be up to you. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been really, really valuable. There's lots of things that are always changing on Amazon, and I know it's really important for Amazon sellers to stay updated on this kind of stuff. So if people want to reach out to you online or learn more about what you do, where can they do so?
So you can go to our website at riverbendconsulting.com. And on there's a click to call. We do have offices and we have people who answer the phones and would be happy to talk to anyone about their issues. When people are panicked about suspended accounts, they want to reach out and talk to a person. So if you go to riverbendconsulting.com, you can find all of our contact info, and also on Facebook, if you want to message with someone, you can go to the chat or the messaging on Facebook and someone will get right with you.
Awesome, Lesley. Well, appreciate you coming on here. That was absolutely valuable. And guys, if you haven't already, please go leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever new fancy podcast app is out there these days that some 18-year-old launched and became a millionaire from. Go leave a review for the Actualized Freedom podcast on there. And until next time, guys, you can find the show notes on actualizedfreedom.com, and we'll see you guys next time. This podcast is sponsored by the Helium 10 suite of tools, and we at Kenji ROI have been using Helium 10 for more than 3 years now. They have so many tools packed into one, I don't think that there's a better value, and we use it all the time for ourselves and our clients, so we can actually recommend it from real experience. We use their keyword tracker to see how our product launches are doing, the keyword indexing tool to ensure that you're actually showing up for your main keywords. Super, super important step right there. And also Magnet and Cerebro, a really powerful combination for finding keywords your competitors are using or just finding new keywords to put into your listing in general. You should be using this on, at least a monthly basis to see if any new keywords are coming up, because new searches are coming up all the time, guys. Like, people are searching on Google. I forget the number, but a huge percentage of those searches are brand new, never been done searches. So if you guys want a discount code, you can use 50 Kenji ROI for 50% off your first month with Helium 10, or 10 Kenji ROI for 10% off for life. So that's a pretty good discount. You might as well. We use them and recommend them for years. So if you guys need that, you guys will definitely get good value out of Helium 10.
For show notes and resources mentioned in this episode, visit kenjiroi.com.